Hello, I'm Jenya DeLima. Welcome to Writing and Editing, the author-focused podcast that takes a whole-person approach to everything related to both writing and editing. When it comes to romance, we might be drawn to someone because of common interests or maybe other similarities that we share. However, we might also find that we're attracted to someone who is our complete opposite. But when we're creating a couple where opposites attract, we need to show why these differences lead to attraction instead of only conflict and opposition. And here to share how is returning guest Becca Kinzer. Oh, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be back. Thanks for having me back.
And congratulations on your upcoming release, Not What We Pictured, which looks
Thank
so
you.
cute.
It's a fun story.
So, leading into that, in what ways are your characters opposites in this book?
So, this story, yes, we have McKenna and Nate. And for this story, I kind of dove in a little bit to the Enneagram. There's a
Yeah.
personality typography. I was like, well, let's see. And so their characters' personalities are a little bit different. McKenna is like more of a sensitive caregiver. She's taking care of her younger sister. And she meets Nate, and he's more the artistic type. But when they meet, McKenna, as most rom-coms, she's a little stressed out. She's got her
Mhm.
goals. She's trying to get her little sister engaged. And so Nate kind of meets the wild, chaotic version of her, where he's kind of at a different emotional state at that time. So that's kind of the clash at the beginning of like, who is this crazy woman? What is going on here? So it's a fun way for their personalities to show those differences at the beginning. But then of course later, I think the fun is seeing the similarities once they start kind of going below the surface a little bit of like, okay, on the surface, we are two different people, but below that, we have some things in common.
I want to talk a little bit too about first impressions, especially where that person might be seeing us when we are not at our best at all. And then that's the first impression that they form, or even what they assume our personality is like on a day to day basis.
Yes. So I think that's the benefit of books. We get the internal
Mm-hmm.
monologue, or we kind of know the character. Even McKenna acknowledges, like, I am not usually like this. Like, what is my problem? Like, I know I'm coming across as a crazy person right now. And so hopefully the reader can kind of see, like, okay, I can see where she's coming from. Whereas Nate, the other character, doesn't have that benefit yet. So all he gets is this interaction. And yeah, I think in real life, that's why books are so important. Maybe it gives us a glimpse of people that we might be tempted to just brush off of that's a wacko, or understand, okay, maybe there's more going on here. Let's give them, the benefit or get to know them a little better. So it's one of the things I love about writing stories.
Yeah, and then how do those inaccurate first impressions work here with the romance and then keeping those characters apart, at least romantically?
Right. So, yeah, they meet initially. There's a clash. And so I think then you have to have the outer plot of like, okay, they have to be forced back together
Yes.
somehow. And so, yeah, I think they would have both gladly parted ways after that first interaction,
Right.
but the circumstances, she had lost her like a family heirloom ring. And so she's tracking it down. And of course, it leads her back into Nate's life. And so now the outward plot brings them back together and they're kind of stuck, like the situation of, well, we're here. And so then I think over time, then you start bringing in, you use those outer plot characteristics or circumstances, you force them together. And then that's when you have time for them to, like, okay, we got to work together. Like we both have our goals. How can we benefit each other? And then over time, they can work together, start having those conversations and realize, okay, there's a little more here, but it is pacing, because they can't just
Right.
flip the
Yes.
switch and be like, oh, I actually like her. I mean, it's more,
But yeah, then you'd have a
yeah,
short story.
yeah, it'd be very short. So, yeah, sometimes it's a few steps forward, a few steps back, and a little bit of a dance as they get to know each other and realize, okay, maybe I like this person more than I originally thought.
And so you used forced proximity in this one, which I know we talked about last time and liking it and why. So,
Yes.
can you explain why that works so well also with opposites attract, and maybe why the book might have been more difficult to write if you hadn't used that?
Yeah, I think sometimes with forced proximity, you can do the, what is it, enemies to lovers type thing.
Yeah.
And I think with them, I don't really see them as like enemies. It's more just the opposite personalities. And I, like we talked about before, yes, forced proximity. I mean, I think the reason romance readers pick up a book, they want to see them together as much as possible. So making an
True.
organic reason of, well, they're here at a bed and breakfast together and she's stuck waiting to find this ring and he's there because that's where his mom she owns the bed and breakfast. So figuring out how to get them together in scenes as much as possible where it's still interesting. It's not just them sitting around talking, the whole time. But that's why I love forced proximity because it's like, well, they're together. That's the interaction we want is the
Right.
hero and the heroine on the page together, even if maybe they haven't emotionally connected together yet. We're seeing the interaction.
Yeah, and that's just it too, because there's action in it. It's not like that typical date type stuff where it's going out to dinner or a walk or a movie where you're not going to have a lot of those even everyday moments coming in and interrupting them and seeing how people react to those. And then, yeah, then the differences between, well, I would have done this or I would have been calmer if I'd had the same situation happen to me. So reinforcing that idea that this person's incompatible with who I am, even though we know they end up being wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with this story, so I had them meet right away because there is a little bit of time. It's like I had to get my ducks in a row to get them back together because their initial meeting is in like Nebraska, a random encounter. And then the majority of the story takes place at a bed and breakfast in Tennessee. So it was like, okay, getting them together. So I wanted readers to see them like initially have that interaction because there's a few chapters of them doing their own thing, how they end up back together. But I think on those pages, it's like, well, they're still having thoughts of each other. Like that other person really left an impression. So even though
Yes.
they're not there on the same scene, you still have them thinking about that person and it still gives that feeling of them together. Or like you, I think it satisfies readers too. That sort of they're in thoughts, they're in forced proximity in a way.
Yeah, I like that. And then, so also, what are some of the things they then have in common, even if these are things they don't realize right away?
Sure. A lot of this one, I think their similarities go back to their childhoods. Like they both have some childhood wounds that are similar, but they're handling a little differently. Um, with Nate's character, he has a great relationship with his mom, but it's like his dad he's struggled with. And I think there's that whole like acceptance, a father-son thing of like, why wasn't I good enough for my dad? Why'd he leave? And then with McKenna, her background story is more she was a foster child and adopted, and again had a good overall experience with her parents, with her mom. But I think she struggles with like she has to earn it. Like I was blessed, but I have to earn this love. And it takes both of them kind of dealing with their own issues. And then they realize, well, it's sometimes easier to speak truth into somebody else's life
Yeah,
than to,
exactly.
yeah, tell yourself or to believe it. So they bond over learning what they need to learn and then sharing that with each other.
I think that's so true, especially because sometimes we might logically know this is what's happening or this is what to do, but it's also so hard when your own emotions and relationships are what are going to be impacting that. So you can't just remove yourself and say, yes, I should do this. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and what are some of the ways they ever felt frustrated or annoyed with one another because of these perceived differences?
I think McKenna just comes across a little loud and strong there at the beginning. I mean, she is very obsessed with, for her own good reasons, of handling her little sister. And so Nate sees that as meddling. Like, why are you
Mm.
meddling in other people's? And she just sees it as helping, maybe aggressively helping. Um,
Right.
and yeah, and I think she's in a place where she just wants to get to the next stage of her life. Nate thinks he's found the next stage, like he's already reached it in his mind. Like he's just wanting peace and, different things. So they're just part of the clash is just the different stages of their lives and their careers and different things. And so it's a little hard for them, I think, to relate to each other initially because of
Mhm.
just the different goals that they want.
And then how did you show them progressing from this is who this person is to maybe I was wrong?
I think a lot of that comes through their conversations, but that's where I like bringing in the side characters
Mhm.
and getting them a little bit involved. Let's just say they're aggressive helpers as well. And it's another small town setting. So you've got a lot of they have good intentions, but they're meddlers. But I think they have their own goals and they find ways. It's not necessarily like, oh, we're going to match these two up, but once they get on the stage, they find ways that they're also bringing the characters together, and then pretty soon the characters are kind of they're bonding over what they're both experiencing with these crazy side characters and the situations they find themselves in.
Is there one situation that you would feel comfortable sharing that wouldn't be too spoilery?
Yeah, there's one of my favorite scenes. There's a dance. It's like a town dance. It's called the Dominoes dance, where it's like if you don't want to dance, you can play dominoes. We have
Oh,
it like out
fun.
on the table. Otherwise, you can dance. And McKenna's a photographer, so of course, once they heard that, they're like, "Oh, we need a photographer for the dance," and so they get her roped in. And Nate's just a, young, handsome man. And they're like, we need young, handsome men to dance. You better be there. So that scene, there's a big announcement that is kind of it's building up to. And it's just a good example of the overall tone of the story of just a lot of people, a lot of excitement, there's a lot of dialogue from the town's characters, and I love a good ensemble cast. And it's one I introduce a lot of side characters, as the story goes, but it's kind of like one of the scenes where everybody's together and yeah, the dancing, there's some romance, but it's like the town celebration, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can see too how the side characters make such a big difference because it's sort of like when your friend is saying, no, just go for it, or that's not really what they're like. And so
Yeah.
eventually it starts to just sort of creep in a little bit about, well, maybe I should reframe how I view this person because surely my friend wouldn't lie to me, or maybe I've only seen them in this capacity and not this capacity, right?
Yeah. And with McKenna, she's new to the area, so
Mm.
nobody knows her like background, but poor Nate, like everybody knows him since he was little. So he's getting feedback from like previous teachers and like
Oh,
friends of his mom, and they're of course reporting everything back to his mom. And I mean, so it's like, yeah, it's just nosy, good, do good neighbors, but a lot of chaos, but a lot of fun. Small town fun, I'd say.
yeah, and then just going a little deeper, looking at what these opposites are. So that could be stuff like your background or maybe your beliefs about something, personality. What kind of opposites do you think work best for an opposites attract? And which would make it more difficult for the romance to feel believable?
Yeah, I think my favorite, I mean, if you read my books, I've been told my female characters tend to be a little bit of the more neurotic, crazy like ones. And then the male characters, they're more the level-headed. And I like that opposite, that balance between, yeah, the high-strung, crazy, and then the other that brings things back to a more level. So I think that works well, those opposites. I don't know. In one of the stories I'm working on, though, I currently working on, I have two characters who have similar personalities, and in a way that almost makes them clash just as
Oh,
well because they're both driven and they're both kind of stubborn in their own way. So it's like I guess there's room for personalities to clash, whether they're similar or opposite. I guess it just depends on what their goals are and if the other is helping them in that direction or appears to be getting in the way.
Yeah, that was something I thought of too about not even just in books, but in my real life friendships and so on, but where that other person's opposite from you in some way, but you see it as complementary. So I might know that I'm not so great at something, but a friend is, and so I can admire that trait in them, or I can admire that they have this whatever it is that they're able to do, skill, talent, something, or interest even, where it's not an interest of mine at all, but I'm still in awe that they know so much about it. And then
Yeah.
also, you might have a question someday about it and you know who to go to. So is that something that ever comes up between McKenna and Nate?
Well, I was thinking about myself the whole time you were talking. I was like,
Oh,
yes, yes, that's how my friendships are too. I love to be with someone who likes to take control and plan. I'm like,
yes.
yes, just guide me anywhere. I will follow.
Yep.
But as far as yeah, McKenna and Nate, I don't know if that one plays into their personalities as much. I think it's more just that they're thrown together and it's more unexpected. Like neither of them is really looking for romance. And initially, this personality is like he seems so uptight and she seems so crazy. And it's like this is not anything. And again, the outer circumstances that force them together thankfully give them time to reevaluate that initial impression.
Then maybe is there a growing appreciation for what makes them different? Or how do you show them bridging that gap?
I think it goes to the background. Once they start learning a little bit more and being vulnerable with each other, of sharing some of those past childhood, and I don't even know that they realize, oh, I'm sharing these
Mhm.
hurts or pain. They're just like, well, this is how it was, and this is where I've come out of it from. And I think once you get to know people, it's amazing. Even in real life,
Yeah.
there's people I've like ugh, brushed off like that person. Yeah. But then you spend time with them and get to know them, and you're like, oh, those things that I was like, I wanted to brush you off for, actually, I kind of find them endearing now. And I think I can let down my guard too, of like,
Yeah.
okay, I can be more relaxed around them too and share. I think it's just, yeah, all about sharing things and willing to be vulnerable, and it
Mhm.
just it brings you closer together. It's hard for it
Yeah.
not to.
And then developing a fuller understanding of who that person is and why I think helps too. So we
Hmm.
always have our own limited perspective that we're applying to things and our filter that we're looking at everything through. So if we think it's only reason one or two, but it's actually reason 12 that never even occurred to us, right? That can make such a
Hmm.
difference.
Yeah. Hmm.
Going back to how to write this kind of romance, what are the different ways you added tension? And are there any ways you added tension with this that wouldn't work with another trope?
Well, with this story, I when I turned it into my editors, they were like, "Well, I mean, the humor's there. It's really funny, but they're like, but what's really the hook? Like, what's
Oh,
carrying this story through?" And so, yeah, that was like, good question. And we really had a hard time with that earlier draft, like articulating it. So I think that I had to go back through and asked about the tension. So I
hmm.
think making more of that emotional layer of not just here's the funny outward
Yeah.
circumstances. It's like, okay, now we do have to get back into the character. What makes them tick? Where are they coming from? What are those wounds or lies that they believe? They don't know that they believe it, but how's that affecting what they want? Because then, I mean, ultimately in a romance, you reach that point of like something has to take them apart,
Yes.
and pull them apart. So of that, the tension of like, well, they might actually be a decent couple together, but here's the internal things still keeping them apart, and a little bit of that external plot still keeping them apart. But yeah, it took a few drafts to go back and add those layers of tension and not just make it a, here's one scene, here's the next scene, and through the whole story of weaving that aspect through it.
And roughly what percentage of these circumstances that kept them apart would you say were internal versus external?
I think at the beginning, it's mostly external things. And then further in the story, because you can tell they're obviously starting to have feelings for each other, then it's some of those internal emotional wounds that's like, well, yes, I like you, I'm attracted to you, but, I don't, for my own, McKenna had to deal with her own things and Nate too. Probably for McKenna, it's more internal emotional wounds. She's the woman keeping them apart, whereas Nate, for him, it was more external
Mm.
situations of like, well, we do have jobs on opposite sides of the country. That's going to be a problem. But I like Nate because he got there first. He was like, I like this girl. I'm ready, which is
Oh,
funny because he was the one at the beginning that was like, this girl's got to go. Like, this girl's
yeah.
crazy.
Now I do love he falls first. That's
Yes. Yeah.
yes. Little heart.
Hmm.
And so also their character arcs are going to play a part too. So their character arcs feel like they were running parallel to each other, or did you see one really have that aha moment much earlier than the other one did?
Nate, he got there a little bit. It's pretty similar, their arcs, but Nate does get there just a little bit earlier than McKenna does, which works out because I think that's how he's
Mm,
to like, I can be patient. Like, I got there first. You're not there yet, but you're worth the wait. So I'm gonna wait until you can get there, or well, I'm gonna help you hopefully get there, too. But otherwise, I'd say they're pretty similar, which is kind of what helps also bond them is they're going on a similar emotional journey together.
do you think that the pacing, how would the pacing have differed if they hadn't been following a similar path towards when they reached that moment? So let's say someone was much further delayed in reaching the moment than the first person.
I think it would probably frustrate the reader after a while. I know when I'm reading romance, I my least favorite part, I'll be honest, is the breakup, like what keeps them
Yeah,
apart. Because I just want to be like, just figure it out and get back together. And
right.
so
Talk to each other. Come on.
yeah, like come on. And so I think if you have that one character who's just not getting it, it does get a little frustrating of like because if he's there and ready, it's like he's perfect. What is wrong with you? Like just get over it. So you kind of you want the journeys, I feel like, to correlate pretty well together, or one of the characters just comes across maybe completely obtuse or like, what is wrong with you?
And then do they play a part at all in each other's character arcs? And if so, are you able to explain how a little bit?
I think for Nate's big, the wall he's trying to get past is learning how to forgive his father.
Mm,
And I think McKenna, as they're sharing, and he's kind of able to process some things, I think McKenna, as he's falling in love with her, it's kind of like he realizes the man he wants to be is not a bitter man who can't get over past wounds. It's like he wants to be a better man so that he can really devote his love to McKenna. And so, in that way, I don't know that she actively realized she was helping him, but she did. And then it's more obvious how Nate, like his dialogue is very clear. He's trying to help her. Like, I want us to both be in a place where we can be together, but I understand you still need time to get past your wall. So he is more vocal about how he's helping her.
mhm. And then, just as a more general question, why do you think readers are drawn to opposite attract romances?
I wonder, I think maybe the tension there, because what I've read in real life is actually that's not the majority of cases. People tend to find others who are similar, that they share a lot of common things. So maybe it's just a fun, safe way to read two people that might actually in real life drive each other truly crazy. I don't know. But in the romance story, it works out. And
Yeah.
their personalities may be opposite, but they always fit together. I think they tend not to be as opposite as they seem. Like they realize
Oh, right.
eventually,
Yes.
in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of that whole love conquers all message that it might have seemed like there was no way they were going to end up together in the beginning. even though you knew they would.
Right.
But yeah, if you're that much in love and that committed to each other and willing to compromise and see the other person, it'll work. It's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, and before we end, do you have a favorite opposites attract couple, either in popular media or even in real life, who served as inspiration in any way?
Oh, good question. No, I don't know that I do. I'll have to get back to you. I'll email you. I'll be like, add this to the notes if I could think of a good one. I don't know. Can you think of any good opposites attract?
Well, when I was reading about just from earlier, one of the ones that came up was Andy and April from Parks and Recreation, and I thought, oh yeah, they were pretty fun, and they definitely are not similar in most ways. But
Well, that gives me something to look forward to. My husband and I, we had never watched the show. Everybody kept telling us, like I'd seen clips. So we finished season one and we just started season two last night. So I'll keep that one in mind. I'll be like, oh, she was right. This is a good one.
or she was wrong, and we can
Or
add that to
what
the
was
notes
she
too.
thinking? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Just let me know your opinion, and then we can
All
just pass
right.
that on. Becca did not agree.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thank you again. And do you have any last messages you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. I love talking about stories and, of course, romance. And
Mhm.
yeah, this one, I hope that anyone who picks it up just has a fun time and enjoys it.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for listening, and be sure to check out the show notes for additional information. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Thanks again.